They're crunchy, creamy, sweet, and savory. They can be enjoyed in so many different ways. But have you ever wondered how peanuts are grown? On this field trip, we're cracking into the world of peanuts.
Field Trip is made possible by Cooperative Extension Service at New Mexico State University and by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.
Did you know that peanuts aren't really nuts? They're actually legumes, making them a close relative to the bean. And although they have a case of mistaken identity, they still make the perfect snack. Peanuts are a versatile product and can be found in many of our favorite foods, like candy, baked goods, snack foods, and more. And because they're in such demand, peanuts are a desirable crop for farmers to grow.
Whenever I eat the creamy crunchy and it's made with nothing but peanuts, it's really healthy for me, and I don't have to worry about all the additives or all the sugar and salt in it. So it's just something easy. You can take it with you on the go, eat it with, fruit, vegetables, or you can even just make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I like peanuts in any and every form. My wife makes peanut butter cookies. She makes chocolate chip cookie and adds chunky peanut butter to the dough. It makes a wonderful tasting chocolate chip peanut butter cookie.
I really like them. I have to watch. I don't eat too many, but they are really good for you. They're a great source of protein, and the oils in them are not supposed to be detrimental. It's good for your heart in moderate amounts, and they're just really good for you and a very healthy product.
Peanuts originated in South America and date back to prehistoric times. When European explorers discovered the Americas, the peanut was taken through different trade routes around the world. In the United States, peanuts were introduced by African slaves and became a notable crop during the Civil War because they were an essential food for soldiers. Today, peanuts remain a staple in the American diet and can be found in a variety of foods and products.
They are a native of Brazil, but they were transported to Africa and then they were brought to the United States as a food source for the slaves. And of course, George Washington Carver, who was born a slave and then was one of the greatest inventors, developers of agricultural products that the United States has ever known, developed several hundred uses for peanuts and actually made the peanut butter products and the like for infants. And he is the one primarily responsible for the development of the peanut industry in the United States.
My beginning years, which was quite some time ago, probably in the early 50s, it's the first remembrance I have of peanuts. We dug them by hand and shocked them, and then we come along with a pitchfork and put those shocks on a trailer and haul them to a Keystone thresher. And then we caught them in a bushel basket and put them in another trailer and hauled them to town. And there was a place here in town called Gur Ford's, and he would buy peanuts, and then Governor Burris had Portales Valley Mills, and he would buy peanuts. And that's kind of how the peanut industry got started here.
There are many varieties of peanuts grown in the U.S., and each variety has their own unique characteristics that make them crunchy and delicious.
There are 4 market types in US. One is runner, second is Virginia, third is Spanish, and the fourth is Valencias. Valencias are only grown in the southwest, mainly towards the New Mexico and West Texas. And generally the acreage goes from 20 to 30,000 depending on the how much the producers need it and how much the peanuts are contracted during a year. The unique characteristics why Valencias are growing during in this part of the country is mainly because we don't get that much of rainfall and humidity is not very high compared to what Georgia or North Carolina has it.
You want the ground to be clean and the residue taken off or buried with a moldboard plow so that the peanuts are not maturing in a lot of decaying residue. You need the soil temperature to be about at least 65 degrees for good germination. You can plant peanuts when it's cooler. If it warms up, you're okay. If you plant them in real hot ground that turns cold, then they're liable to take a big shank or get cold or do something with the seedlings. So that begins in May, about the middle of May, and then you just keep them watered. It takes about 2 inches a week. Presently, there's peanuts grown in about 8 to 10 states in the South, and they're grown mostly in the South because of the climate, the long growing season. And we're the only ones here basically that grows a little red peanut called the Valencia that has a natural sweet flavor. We have developed a niche market just for that product, and it's growing every year, and especially the organic part of it, because here in New Mexico we can successfully grow peanuts without the use of fungicides and all those chemicals. So that is really becoming a large market for us.
A peanut farmer's goal is to produce a quality product, and to get that product, he must start with the seed in a field.
This land has been grown peanut after peanut for the last 25 years. For a breeder, my new lines, what I'm more interested is to evaluate on this field to see what the new varieties, how much of resistance or tolerance they have it for disease as well as the drought.
Water is very limited in the eastern part of New Mexico. Peanut breeders try to produce peanut varieties that can withstand periods of drought spells and other water constraints in the future. For peanut breeding research fields, water is applied to half of the fields regularly, and the other half of the field is stressed, which do not get as much water. Peanut yield production is measured based on regular watering and low watering. Research peanut plots are usually smaller compared to that of larger peanut plots of farmers in the area. Generally, the peanuts are planted in the early part of May and are usually harvested near the end of September or early October. After planting, a lot of work goes into this peanut crop. Irrigation, fertilization, and pest control are all important steps to the growing process.
Peanut is an indeterminate crop, so you see these flowers keep on occurring throughout its period or growing cycle. Once these get fertilized, they form a peg, and the peg goes inside it, and you can see the pegs basically forms the pods. After planting in May, flowering usually occurs a month afterwards. Once the flowers are fertilized, the pegs start coming out. Early flowering helps the peanut because they can form earlier and have more mature peanut pods. From June to July, peanut pods begin forming. The pods are at different stages due to the peanut being an indeterminate crop. Near the end of August is when the peanuts begin its pod filling phase, and maturity generally takes place during the month of September. During the growing season, a mid-season fertilizer is carefully applied usually after 30 to 50 days after planting. Half the fertilizer actually goes in before planting, and the other half is applied after the 30-day planting period. After fertilization, care is taken to make sure that there are no diseases. Since peanuts are also sold in shell, farmers make sure there is no discoloration on the peanuts. Farmers usually will get a premium for their crop for having brightly colored peanuts. Care is taken to see that a lot of fungicides are applied, mainly to maintain this bright color and to avoid any diseases on the peanuts.
The peanuts here are a totally irrigated crop in eastern New Mexico because of our arid climate. We don't get enough timely beneficial rainfall to try to do it otherwise. So you'll find all the peanuts here are irrigated. You've got to irrigate them pretty heavy to push for the yields we need nowadays to survive or sustain our operation. At the same time, if you push them too hard, you're asking for more of the disease problems.
After the summer growing season, these peanut pods will begin to ripen, and now the farmers must prepare for harvest.
Our harvest here starts around the 1st of October. It's a two-part process. It's a pretty intensive process. The first part consists of what they call an inverter or digger, and it will dig the peanuts out of the ground and flip them upside down to dry in the sun. Since the nut itself's grown underground, it has to dry before you can store it. So we invert them, then it takes about a week to 10 days in our climate here for them to be dry enough to combine or thrash. Another machinery operation then comes along and picks up the dried peanut plant and separates the actual nut from the vines. And then we load that in and bring it into town.
The harvest is really the hardest part about growing peanuts. You have to turn them up with an inverter, and we have machinery to do that. And the flavor is what we're selling. So we're very careful about that, but usually you need to get them down to at least 15% moisture before you think about combining and then deliver them to whoever you're going to sell the peanuts to.
Once the peanuts are harvested and dried, they're sent out for processing, and one step closer for you to munch on.
We've got 4 sheller baskets upstairs, and there's 4 baskets inside of each of the shellers, and we've got 3 beater bars inside of each of those baskets. The shelled kernels fall through the slots in the baskets, and then they go up through a sizer, which sizes them as to the size of the shelled kernel. We have jumbos, number 1s, splits, wildlife, and then oil stock. Inside of the picking room, the machine that we were looking at is the Scan Master, and what that's doing is it's looking at each kernel that comes down a slide, and as it sees a defect in the peanut, it gives a burst of air and blows that bad peanut down into the oil stock. And the good peanuts come onto the table, and the ladies pick out anything that the machine missed. We process both in-shell and shelled peanuts. On the in-shell side, we have raw, roasted, and then we salt and roast peanuts in shell. We bag anywhere from 2-ounce bags up to 10-pound bags in the packaging room. We also will roast 25-pound bags and 50-pound bags of either roasted or roasted and salted. We also process non-roasted peanuts, raw peanuts.